Hi everyone! Today I'm reviewing a set of pencils called Van Gogh, made by the company Royal Talens in Holland. These are not to be confused with this set by Castle Arts. The pencils come in packs of 12, 24, 36 and this largest set of 60, and are also available as water-soluble and pastel pencils. The main feature of these pencils is their high lightfastness, which means they'll retain their vibrancy of colour under museum conditions for a very long time, up to 100 years if you see 2+ symbols on the barrel, and at least 100 years for the triple plus symbol. They've been tested against the ASTM standard, so lightfastness is fully guaranteed. In fact, they took part in the very first tests for ASTM, so you can be certain the lightfast properties will stand up. The barrels themselves are made with responsibly forested cedar wood and measure 8mm in diameter. The core itself is just under 4mm, so they do feel quite robust in the hand. As with most art supplies, there are good and bad points, which I'll cover in this review. The packaging is really nice, a sturdy brushed metal tin with flocked trays that are easy to remove and stack. The colours are vivid right off the bat, even with light pressure. They're clearly formulated with quality pigments, being as lightfast as they are, so the vibrancy of the colours is great. They're quite opaque on black paper, though it varies between colours. This tells me they definitely lean on the wax side. Oil pencils tend to be more translucent in general, but as you know, all pencils are a mixture of wax and oil, just in different ratios. Here I compared the Van Gogh with the Prismacolor and Polychromos, and I think the Van Gogh are definitely closer to Prismas on opacity. As for colour selection, there are some beautiful tones here. However, I think the Van Gogh pencils are a bit too heavy on the reds and too light on the purples and peach tones. There aren't a lot of skin tone options here, but there are plenty of blues and greens, so it would be ideal predominantly for marine or nature colouring rather than portraiture, although more earthy tones would have been nice to counterbalance all those bright reds. A few of those blue and greens are quite similar in shade as well, so they could have been switched out with some of the colours we don't have here. Personally, I found these pencils quite difficult to get on with. Now, I'm assuming this is personal preference because all the reviews I can find are really positive, but I can't say I had the same experience as them when I didn't. These aren't bad pencils, please don't get me wrong, they're just not for me. I'm sure others could and have created beautiful artworks and found the pencils brilliant to use, so as always I recommend you to try them for yourself if possible, instead of relying wholly on reviews. Pencils I've found can be a very personal preference across the board. Some people love Polychromos, some find them far too hard. Some people like softer, smushier pencils, some prefer dry, oily pencils that you need to layer and layer. With these Van Goghs, I struggled with a few things. First of all, lay down. They feel incredibly waxy, which leads me to believe there's a high concentration of binder in these pencils. Some are softer than others, which is quite a common thread throughout most pencil sets. They seem to drag across the paper and actually squeak when you try multiple layers. I've tried them on toothier paper and the issue is slightly reduced, but then you have the problem of trying to build up layers with what feel like very sticky leads. They're odd in that they give me hand cramp from trying to build up colour, yet they crumble and break quite easily. So you'd think they were softer than they actually feel in use. It's really hard to describe without you being here to test them and feel what I mean for yourself, but here's a bit of that squeaky sound so you can get a clearer picture. Of course, paper is a huge factor in how all coloured pencils perform, so I made sure to test these on a variety of stocks, a smoother card, which you'll see later, and these two toothier options. We have Frisk, which is a cartridge paper, so quite rough, and Canson, which has a flatter tooth but still more textured than most. I managed 8 layers before fully burnished, which is good in theory, but I really had to work to get that tooth filled. The pencils can layer, but they just don't like it. That's the best way I can describe them. When you do layer them up, they leave blotchy areas, which is where the pigment is separated, and it doesn't make for a very smooth finish. The next thing is breakages. I experienced quite a few leads breaking and falling out during my mermaid picture, and there were 2 more occurrences whilst filming this video. They sharpen well, but seem to lose their point very quickly. Again, something a very soft pencil would typically do, yet these don't feel creamy in use. They have a sticky, tacky feeling. Blending is another difficulty. While some colours blend okay, others leave a streakiness that's impossible to smooth out. Maybe more in-between colours would help. As I mentioned earlier, there are some gaps that I feel could have been filled and certain colours removed. But when working with very highly light-fast pigments, you can be restricted to smaller number of colours available. It's only relatively recently that Caran d'Ache and Derwent have increased their Lightfast range up to 100 colours, so it's clearly not easy to develop a massive colour range whilst keeping within the highly Lightfast category. So overall, you have some pencils here that are really high quality in terms of the Lightfast pigments. There's no argument from me there. But I do feel that they are more suited as drawing pencils for coloured pencil artists rather than beautifully blendable coloured pencils that colourists might like to use. As you can see here on my mermaid tail, when you keep the points sharp and when they stay sharp and don't break, you can get a beautiful texture with them that isn't blended, but it still looks brilliant. So to be honest, it's the type of colouring that you do which will decide whether you like these pencils or not. It's the kind of techniques that you use, and I think if you utilise them the way that they need to be used, then they're perfect. But for me, I want a really nice, blendable, easy to use pencil that doesn't require an awful lot of burnishing and hand cramping and stuff like that. So, it's really up to you, it's up to the person. But I hope that this review has shed a light on the pencils that aren't very common pencils. You don't hear of them very much in the groups. They are quite difficult to source, although we do have a really good supplier here in the UK, especially of the open stock pencils. So, as always, I say, get yourself a couple of pencils, try them out first before you invest in a big set. And in order to do that, go over to colouredpencil.shop. I'll leave the link in the description and you can buy a few open stock colours there. I'll also leave links of where you can buy all of the sets as well. Not sure how available they are in the US, but whatever links I find will be in the description. So do let me know what you thought of this review. Just a quick note that I didn't manage to get in there when I was doing the voiceover. When I was colouring the purple and blue flower, the 3 flowers from Johanna Basford's book, they worked really nicely on that particular paper. I wouldn't say they were amazing, but that was the best experience I had with them on that paper. So if you have Johanna Basford book, particularly World of Wonders, that paper is really nice with them. But give it a try, let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you soon on Colour with Claire.